Trump's tariffs drove Japan away from America, and what Subaru did next changed everything.
What made Japan abandon American factories? You won't believe what happened next.
Breaking tonight, Japan's industrial strategy just shifted dramatically, and Washington didn't see it coming. Tokyo didn't negotiate, they relocated. And what you're about to discover reveals exactly why America's tariff gambit backfired in the most spectacular way possible. 25% auto tariffs. That was Trump's promise to revive American manufacturing, bring the factories home, restore jobs, make America the industrial heart of the world again. Except something went catastrophically wrong. Instead of drawing companies to U.S. soil, those tariffs pushed them away. And the first company to publicly abandon American production? Subaru. The Japanese automaker that built vehicles in Indiana for years suddenly halted all manufacturing for Canadian buyers on U.S. territory and relocated operations back to Japan. But here's what most people missed. Subaru wasn't retreating, they were repositioning, and their destination wasn't random. While Washington waged trade wars, Ottawa was building something entirely different. A partnership, an alliance, a new economic axis that would quietly reshape North American industry. Because when Tokyo started calculating the cost of Trump's America versus the stability of Carney's Canada, the math became devastatingly simple. So what exactly happened when Japan decided America was too risky? And how did Canada transform from America's neighbor into Asia's preferred partner? Stay with me, because what unfolded between Washington, Ottawa, and Tokyo reveals the exact moment American economic dominance began cracking. Dear viewers, something extraordinary happened between March and October 2025. Washington imposed tariffs, Tokyo said no, and Canada, patient and strategic, became the partner every Japanese executive started calling first. This isn't just about one automaker leaving. This is about the fundamental collapse of tariff-based economic strategy and the rise of stability as the new currency of global trade. Let me take you back to the moment everything changed. March 2025. President Trump stood in the White House and announced sweeping 25% tariffs on imported automobiles and metals. The language was bold. The promise was clear. American factories would roar back to life. Jobs would return. Manufacturing would become America's pride again. But within weeks, the opposite started happening. Subaru's headquarters in Tokyo faced an impossible equation. Steel prices skyrocketed under new tariffs. Aluminum costs doubled. Manufacturing a single vehicle in America suddenly became more expensive than building it in Japan and shipping it overseas. The company ran the numbers 3 times. Same result. Producing cars for Canadian buyers inside the United States no longer made financial sense. So in April 2025, Subaru made it official. They would halt U.S. production for the Canadian market and shift operations back to Japanese factories. Workers in Indiana who had spent years building Outbacks suddenly faced uncertainty. The assembly lines slowed, and across the border in Canada, something unexpected started taking shape. While Washington blamed foreign governments and doubled down on tariffs, Ottawa was watching. Mark Carney's administration didn't respond with anger or threats. They responded with strategy. Instead of retaliating, Canada positioned itself as the calm alternative in a chaotic trade environment. Carney's team reached out to Japan not with demands, but with opportunities. They talked about stability, predictability, long-term partnerships built on trust rather than political whiplash. And Tokyo listened, because here's what Japanese executives understood that Washington didn't. In global manufacturing, uncertainty is the ultimate cost. Every time Trump announced a new tariff, companies had to recalculate their entire supply chain. Every political outburst meant renegotiating contracts. Every tweet created weeks of planning chaos. Japan's industrial giants, Toyota, Honda, Mazda, didn't just need access to North American consumers. They needed to know the rules wouldn't change overnight. Canada offered exactly that. Carney's government streamlined customs procedures, reduced regulatory complexity, and created transparent trade frameworks. No flashy tax breaks, no billion-dollar incentives. Ottawa offered something Japanese executives valued more than any subsidy package. You'll know the rules tomorrow, next month, next year. When you're running multi-billion-dollar operations across continents, that kind of certainty isn't just nice to have. It's the difference between thriving and bleeding money. The results came fast. Then June 2025 rolled around, and Toyota dropped a number that made everyone look twice. Canadian sales up 30% in a single month. Now, Did Canadians suddenly develop an insatiable appetite for Camrys and RAV4s? Not exactly. What actually happened was Tokyo quietly rerouted their entire North American shipping strategy. Vehicles that would have landed in Long Beach or Seattle redirected to Vancouver. Same cars, same market, different entry point, all to sidestep Trump's tariff maze. The vehicles that once rolled through Los Angeles and Seattle started arriving in Vancouver and Montreal instead. Canada wasn't just receiving cars, they were becoming the gateway. But the real transformation happened behind closed doors. While most Americans focused on headlines about trade wars, Canada was quietly building what economists would later call the Northern Corridor. Japanese investment poured into Ontario, battery technology plants opened in Quebec, distribution centers expanded across British Columbia. Every dollar that might have gone to American infrastructure found a new home north of the border. Then Mark Carney stepped onto a stage in Kuala Lumpur and changed the entire dynamic. October 2025. The ASEAN Economic Summit, room full of representatives from Japan, Malaysia, China, Indonesia, everyone expecting the usual diplomatic dance, the careful wording, the non-committal promises. Carney didn't deliver that speech. He stood at that podium, looked out at some of the most powerful economies in Asia, and said something that made every person in that room sit up straighter. His delivery was calm, almost casual, but listen to what he actually said. We'll have discussions with the United States when these are ready, but we're not sitting still. Now, you might think that sounds diplomatic. It wasn't. That was Canada drawing a line in the sand. That was Ottawa telling the world, we're done waiting for Washington to figure itself out. During this crucial summit, something remarkable happened. Ottawa didn't make empty announcements or hold ceremonial press conferences. They accelerated real negotiations. The Prime Minister pushed forward comprehensive trade discussions with Japan, Malaysia, and China, not just handshake photo ops. Real frameworks covering clean energy, artificial intelligence, electric vehicle production, the kind of partnerships built to last decades, not election cycles. And for Japan, this summit wasn't just another diplomatic event. It was the moment everything shifted. Think about it. Tokyo spent 70 years weaving its economic future into the American market. Honda, Toyota, Sony, Nintendo, all built their empires by understanding American consumers. But Trump's tariff chaos exposed something Japan's strategists couldn't ignore anymore. Putting all your eggs in one basket is dangerous, especially when that basket keeps getting kicked over by whoever's in the White House. American markets absorb Japanese technology, but Trump's tariffs exposed a dangerous vulnerability. Relying too heavily on one partner, especially an unpredictable one, was a strategic risk Japan could no longer afford. So Tokyo diversified, and Canada became the bridge. Japanese companies started using Canadian territory as their North American headquarters. Shipments from Nagoya and Yokohama that once went to California now went to Vancouver. Business delegations that once traveled to New York started flying to Toronto. Canada wasn't replacing America and Japan's strategy. They were becoming the stable alternative when America became too chaotic to navigate. And here's what made Canada's approach so effective. They didn't demand loyalty. They didn't threaten consequences. They simply offered a better option. Carney's team understood something Washington had forgotten. In international business, trust is currency. Companies don't need the biggest market. They need the most reliable one. And between Trump's tariff-driven volatility and Carney's consistency-focused strategy, the choice became obvious. By October 2025, the pattern was undeniable. Subaru wasn't an isolated case. They were the beginning of an exodus. Mazda redirected their supply chains through Canada. Honda expanded Canadian operations while scaling back in the US. And China's BYD, the world's leading electric vehicle manufacturer, announced new distribution centers in Quebec and British Columbia, bypassing American markets entirely. Economists started calling it the stability premium. In a world where political chaos had become normalized, countries offering predictability could charge a premium for access. Canada wasn't undercutting America on price. They were outcompeting America on reliability. And for industries operating on thin margins with complex supply chains, that reliability was worth billions. Meanwhile, in Washington, the response was doubling down. More tariffs, more threats, more promises that American manufacturing would return any day now. But the factories didn't come back, the jobs didn't materialize, and the companies that Trump swore would return started announcing permanent relocations abroad. The policies designed to strengthen American industry were accelerating its decline. What Trump's administration failed to grasp was fundamental. Manufacturing in the 21st century isn't about borders or tariffs. It's about networks. Supply chains span continents. Production involves dozens of countries. Success requires coordination across time zones, regulatory systems, and political environments. And when one country makes that coordination impossible through constant policy changes, the entire network routes around them. That's exactly what happened with Japan and Canada. Tokyo didn't abandon the North American market. They found a more efficient path into it, and Ottawa, recognizing the opportunity, built the infrastructure to make that path permanent. Canadian ports expanded, and logistics networks improved. Trade agreements multiplied. While Washington fought yesterday's economic battles, Canada was building tomorrow's economic architecture. The symbolism was impossible to ignore. For 70 years, Japan's relationship with the West ran through Washington. American military presence in Asia guaranteed Japanese security. American consumers guaranteed Japanese prosperity. That bond seemed unbreakable. But Trump's tariffs revealed a crack in the foundation. And once that crack appeared, it widened fast. Because here's what happens when reliability disappears from international relationships. Partners start looking for alternatives. Quietly, carefully, without announcements or confrontations, they don't declare independence. They just slowly shift their investments, their supply chains, their strategic focus toward more stable ground. That's exactly what Japan did with Canada. And the implications extend far beyond automobiles. This was about leadership, about which country could be trusted to anchor 21st century economic cooperation. For decades, America held that position by default, but defaults can change. And when Washington chose chaos over consistency, Ottawa stepped into the vacuum. Dear viewers, what we just watched wasn't simply money changing hands or factories relocating. This was power shifting. The industries that will define the next 50 years, clean energy, advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, stopped asking Washington for permission. They stopped centering their strategies around what politicians in D.C. wanted or threatened. They were building networks that functioned regardless of Washington's approval. And Canada, by offering stability when America offered volatility, positioned itself at the heart of those networks. The whole tariff strategy was supposed to humiliate China, force Japan into submission, drag manufacturing back to American soil. Instead, it humiliated the strategy itself, exposed how leverage actually works in modern global economics. And here's the kicker. It gift-wrapped an opportunity for Canada to show the world that in the 21st century, reliability beats raw size every single time. Which brings us to the real question here. Where does America go from here? Can you maintain economic leadership by threatening everyone? By making your partners guess what policy you'll announce tomorrow? Or does real leadership in today's world look more like what Carney pulled off? Patience, follow-through, building actual partnerships instead of walls. Japan just answered that by moving billions to Canada. Every country watching saw it happen in real time. The message couldn't have been clearer. When it comes to global influence, America's tariffs didn't just miss the target. They blew up in Washington's face. And the country that benefited most? Not Beijing, not Brussels, Ottawa. That's the story Washington didn't want you to hear, but it's the story that explains exactly why America's industrial dominance is cracking while Canada's influence is rising. Trump wanted to make America great again. Instead, his tariffs made Canada the partner the world turns to when America becomes too chaotic to trust. And if you think this is just about cars or trade, you're missing the bigger picture. This is about power, about who shapes the rules of global commerce, about whether the 21st century runs through Washington's chaos or Ottawa's calm. Japan just cast their vote, and billions of dollars followed. Don't forget to subscribe for facts and analysis from Canada. Your support means a lot to me. Thank you.